Boys and girls, we're doing the weather report for July 22nd, 2022, and I don't know why we're doing it.
I don't know, but you need to speak up a little.
I what?
There you go. That's much better.
Well, wait a minute. Are you sure my microphone's working?
Your microphone is working at the moment.
Hang on a second. Let me check.
Play a little Jay.
No, but
I can't remember his last name. What's his name?
What do you mean speak up?
Jay Bundy.
Oh, well, no, that's not through my microphone. No, that's a whole different thing.
Well, I can hear you through your microphone. We just need to make sure your other sound's working.
You mean the sexiest man alive?
Yeah. But wait a minute. Okay. Where the hell is settings? I don't know why my microphone would be low because it's the same microphone I've always had.
Maybe you weren't leaning in or something.
Well, I don't lean in.
Oh, then I have no idea. Anyway, let's continue.
What?
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
What? No. Okay. How am I now?
You're great.
Well,
now we just need to make you mad.
God damn people. Fucking people. Get off my lawn.
I'm exiting your lawn.
Oh, so anyway, Jay Bundy, he really is thrilled. He went up over 100 subs. So everybody should go over there and subscribe. Anybody who's listening, and keep doing that.
I don't know which one he's concentrating on for subs. Is it his Jay Bundy channel or the Pocket Locker 86?
Oh, he got more than 100 subs on both of them.
Oh, okay. Well, go in and subscribe to both the Jay Bundy channel and Pocket Locker 86.
Yeah. So I was amused by this one part. And it's really hard to hear because he combines two audio sources, but try to concentrate on what he's saying. And I thought it was interesting.
This is
what about Sal? Where can you guys find Sal?
For instance,
where can you find Sal? I wish I was a real scientist on YouTube.
I wish I was a real scientist on YouTube. Sal.
I wonder how often he listens to Sal's stuff.
I don't know.
We really need to find out.
I'm not sure. Oh, and then what else did he do here?
Bunch of brainwashed losers.
Yes.
Let's see what else we got in here. Before we get into this one, there's a question that we have to ask. Can I get amen, Kenny?
Except that Paul doesn't say any about that in his credentials when he himself.
We got a rising tide lifts all ships. You got to subscribe to Bread of Life. I mean Bread of Life.
Right?
You got to subscribe to Kenny.
Where are we going with?
What's the name of Kenny's channel? I wish I was Pocket Locker 86 or something like that. I don't know. Go subscribe.
I'm not sure.
Over this stupid thing. I'm sorry. This is a stupid disagreement.
What about this
Paul
weird
had a
ass Rob
revelation
guy? What's the name of this
from
Rob
heaven.
guy's channel?
That's the end of it. I don't want to hear
I wish I was as cool and as sexy as Jay Bundy, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Go subscribe. Go subscribe.
No, it's connected to the statement that was raised, Rebecca. You raised it.
This is a
what about
threat
Sal?
to our
Where can you guys find Sal?
for instance,
Where can you find
back
Sal?
to
I wish I was a real scientist on YouTube. Go sub. Go like and sub.
Shut up! Doctrinal standards. The women were over-talking the message.
Over-talking the message, women.
Standing up
women,
and saying,
you've been over-talking the message, okay?
Shut up! Will you shut up? Shut up! Shut up!
And a woman can't teach over me.
And a woman can't teach
so,
over me. Ain't that
right?
Can I get an amen, Kenny?
Woo! Sparks are coming. Sparks are coming.
Anyway, just a little dose of Jay Bundy. And then he's got this other thing, the Church of the Flying Man, which is pretty fucking worthwhile.
Live from Sacred Death Studios in Los Santos,
From
San Andreas.
Sacred Death
Welcome everyone
Studios.
to Late Night Counter Apologetics. And now, please welcome your host. He is the wise man of the Sacred Death Motorcycle Club. He
As
is
seen on tonight's broadcast,
the sexiest man in all of word wrestling entertainment.
sorry about that, Sean McDowell.
He is the most entertaining man in the history of evolutionary biology.
Whoops.
He is the virtual visionary, Mr. Dual PhD himself.
Two of them.
Give it up for the architect of the atheist apocalypse, the only man to have his vestments blessed by Pine Creek.
Who is hating on my rise to stardom? Can we be real about this? Can we talk about this openly? Come on, Pine Creek.
Of the Flying Man. He is none other than the Outlaw Prince, the one and only
Jesus, who can save us? Woo!
Dr. Heartbreak J. Pocket Locker Bundy.
It takes them forever to fucking introduce. It's just like it just goes on, and he does this thing where is this it? He thanks LPP for making him.
I think he could work on being more excited during his streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm worried about his energy level.
When you're gonna need a big wagon, people to carry you, viewers, including all the lurker jerkers. We want to thank all our subs. We want to thank our mods, our ushers, our deacons, and the other pastors at the First Church of the Cult of the Flying Man. On top of that, we have got to thank the one and only Gutsick Gibbon, whose video analysis of the United States champion has just increased the sub count, the viewer count, the lurker jerker count, the groupie count, the missing pant. Never mind. Let's not talk about that count, folks. But I cannot forget the creationists who have carried me to this moment. A special shout out to my friend LPP and my homie Bible Research Tools. Never could have done it without you guys. You guys are really just something special.
And he's also banned, probably.
Thank you for being a friend.
And it goes on. That goes out to LPV and Bible Research Tools. Oh my goodness, this guy. Anyway, he's maybe an acquired taste, but he is addictive as hell. So.
Has Maddox responded to the video at all? To
No.
Erica's video?
No, he hasn't responded to anything. I think Maddox is he's on a mission from Uber or something. Again,
Okay.
he disappears for like a week. So Sal Cordova is out at Liberty Baptist Church with a bunch of fucking degreed scientists that should know better, and they're all going to do their whole thing on Brahmanology and all this fucking bullshit. And Sal is going to give his talk about, evolutionists agree that proteins didn't come from a common ancestor. And I actually reached out to him and asked him not to do it. And, he's going to do it anyway. It's like, Sal, don't embarrass yourself. It's like, my goodness.
Yeah, I wonder, do we know the names of the scientists that are going to be there? Like political science majors, Are they actual scientists?
No.
Or are they Discovery Institute? And
All kinds of fucking biology.
ICR.
What is he? Okay, is this? Oh, that's number 5. Okay, so we don't want number 5. Oh, that's why I couldn't find my shit. What the? Okay, hang on a second. I'm gonna have to open that again because I got to go to evidence and reasons. Okay, so it was videos. I don't really care what happens today, guys.
So you want me to put the link out there already, or?
I've been working hard. I sent an invite to Andrew and Jay. Did I get Andrew? God damn it!
Well, he's in the side chat, but
Andrew, did you get a link? Oh shit! What's happening in the chat over here? I haven't seen anything. Oh,
Okay. Nesslig.
Yeah.
He has COVID now.
Anybody want to break open Nesslig's comment?
Early protein evolution is interesting. It seems the early proteins originated by fusions of old motifs or folds. Oh, I have so much to say on that, but I'm kind of like saving stuff up. But early protein evolution. Okay, you know this whole thing. Like we're going to link to a Michael Russel video where he talks about containers, and he talks about 2 containers. Should we get to that? Well, let's get to this first. Okay, here's a list of the people. Cell is showing a list of the people that are at this conference. We got Andy McIntosh, Marcus R. Ross, just a whole list of creationist scientists that are and ID people. They're going to be at this thing, and he's pretty excited about it.
Yeah,
Baumgartner, that's what. Yeah, Salvador Cordoba.
Yeah,
So-
he wants his pat on the head from
Yeah, he kind of does. Yeah, he kind of wants to.
wizened, gray, old pseudoscientists.
Yep. Wish I could be a scientist on YouTube. I guess that describes me too, so I can't be too tough on that. Oh, let's see.
I'm
Anyway,
even worse. I'm trying to be a real philosopher on YouTube. It's
Oh,
just bottom of the barrel.
so you could be like a weenie? Like a weenie
Well, I
philosopher?
mean, you did say I'm the prick who's always wrong.
Oh yeah, but you're not a weenie. Okay, you're a cut way above. Like, okay, weenies are like in the basement or the sub basement of the basement. That's where you find the weenies. But pricksters are always wrong. You're like mid level. So
Well, I mean, that's cool. Conceptually, I'm usually spending all my time on the subsurface seafloor. So
yeah, if you're going to be a philosopher, what you have to have is imagination, and you have to be able to see outside of your own argument a little bit. I mean, if you're just going to argue for your bullshit, little 3 fucking premise argument, you're not a philosopher. You're a weenie. And then you're going to call other people stupid. Then you be a weenie.
I'll keep working at it real hard.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm trying to be a science educator.
So, Drace, how do you
Wait,
feel about
my
being
website.
called a philosopher of a biogenesis and biology by Leo Filius?
I'm pretty good with that, and I'll take that compliment from Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Okay, so Andy McIntosh, where the hell? This is that's his rehearsal thing. Okay, here we go. Wetsus Congress 2021. Do you know what that is? That was like a Abiogenesis conference where William Martin talked.
I'm not sure what kind of conference it was. I mean, Bill Martin gives his talk there,
Okay.
and somewhere in Germany, odds are that's where he teaches.
Right, and here's Michael Russel on the emergence of life through negative entropy trapping, and he talks about containers. And then also you had Scott, you linked the PCE3 article on containers or on early protocells.
It was a video.
A video, yes.
Yeah.
It's
So I
called.
sent it to you. I can find the link again.
Well, I could just look at your messages. How about that?
You possibly could, yes.
Could look at that. Oh my God, how long ago was it?
Last night.
I can't find it.
About 8 p.m.
What the fuck? I can't find
Maybe
it.
a little earlier than 8 p.m.
I cannot find it. Nope. Not finding it. What the hell? You sure you sent it to me? Oh, did you send it to me by email?
No. It might be like a joint message with you and Drace.
Oh, Andrew and Scott.
Oh, you and Andrew, because I emailed you and I texted you.
Thank you.
Yet you can't find it.
There it is. Okay. So this is PCE 3 prebiotic chemistry, and they have all kinds of people. Like they'll have 4 or 5 people in their talk, and they're doing stuff on protocells and all the work they've done on protocells. And this is Irene Chen, and then there is, let's see, Claudia Bonfio and whatever. But anyway, okay, so the question about protein origins, right? One of the I forget which video it's on. I think it's in this first segment here where they talk about how you get from protocells, or how you get from those like little chambers in the clay or in minerals, and then you get to the point where you have a lipid bilayer, and then the cells break off. But then what they found is that when they heat the cells up, these lipid bilayers become solid masses, and then when they cool them down again, they start to disintegrate, and they reform as lipid bilayers. So they form new cells, right? So you can imagine that we had a lot of RNA and a lot of small peptides, basically concentrated somehow. Don't get me started on that, but so you have all of these like millions and billions of different RNAs and peptides, right? And the cells are forming around them. So each cell that forms around these things takes a sample of that millions and billions and trillions of peptides and RNAs. So every one is going to have a slightly different composition inside of it. So at the very beginning, every single protocell was a different species entirely, right? But some of these things managed to do the trick of life, which is a whole long, complicated metabolism discussion, right? But the point is that there were many, many different small peptides that started out the whole protein thing. And the most important part is small RNAs that got turned into small proteins and small peptides. And there were hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands probably, in the first protocells that kicked off life. So we had all of those ancestors of proteins. So there was no common ancestor for a protein. It just makes no sense. And then eventually we ended up with a common population of prokaryotes, that went forward. And that even there, you had a bush more than a tree of life, because the prokaryotes were probably billions and trillions of different kinds and species, and each one had its own little bag of peptides. And so there was never any, no one has ever thought that this happened with one protein that evolved into other proteins inside of separate cells. I mean, how the fuck would that even happen? You see what I mean, Dessel?
So my thought here is actually on a total, I grant what you're saying here with Sal. It's not something that I've studied enough about like the origin of proteins. For me, I'm just taking a model where you have RNA and peptides, maybe some very simple proteins, but most proteins, from the way that I would look at it from an unstudied perspective, I would expect them to come later on. But I'm totally down with the idea of maybe some simple proteins, abiogenesis and stuff like that. But the thing that you said that caught my attention most was you really seem up in the air about concentration, and I'm just like wondering, the different things that we've talked about, like precipitation and like these conducting clay layers that draw them in together, and thermophoresis that concentrates them like 800-fold. You don't really like those mechanisms very much?
No, I don't know enough about them.
Oh, okay.
That's the only problem I have is that it's a gap in my knowledge.
All right, fair enough. No problem.
No, I would not argue against concentrations. But we need them. You can see how we need them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the point. Yeah. I'm not pushing back on it. It's just like, come on, I need to know more about it. I need to figure it out.
But yeah, I mean, I'll totally grant you that every biologist that I've seen talking about this issue, I've heard, like I heard Dan, for example, talking with Sal, and like the idea that proteins don't share a common ancestor. That seems to be something that every biologist agrees with. So, but again, I don't take my word on anything on that topic because I don't know enough about it yet. I haven't worked on the origins of proteins. I'm still down with trying to figure out peptides and RNA and the emergence of the code and stuff like that. So.
Yep. Oh hell, I know what's wrong.
We have more interesting facts from Nesslig, or at least theory.
Yeah. That's why we needed early peptides. So one of the early functions of these small peptides was to stabilize RNA. But then at some point, the RNA there was a translation, some sort of loose translation from RNA strands to proteins. So then we ended up with information. So that was like way down the road that we ended up with this information. And that was probably the beginning of the evolution of but you didn't just have one RNA strand that was producing proteins. You had tens of thousands or thousands of them inside a cell, and then trillions across, the entire field of life. So you're going to end up with many origins for proteins. And that is what Cell just is not getting. He's never thought about it. I don't understand why anybody would be so enamored with a critique as he is about this. And he's going out to give this talk. And I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, what are you doing, Cell?
He's got silver bullet syndrome. He's looking for the silver bullet to do away with evolution.
He's been told over and over and over again that, it's just not a thing, not a problem for biology. I mean, I don't know. Why? And I'm still having trouble. I don't know why I'm having trouble today, guys. Don't know what's happening.
So, is science descriptive?
Is what?
Descriptive.
Yep. God, I hate that.
So it's describing in real life terms.
Yes.
So then how do these creationists think that evolution isn't part of science?
I mean, like, we could go into all the different arguments that they try to give about why it doesn't count as science. You weren't there, you didn't observe it, etc.
But it's descriptive. So it's the testable things of the description is testable, so right?
I'd say so. Apparently they disagree. And yeah, and it's
they don't even try.
No, I don't think they care very much.
Friend of this channel, Gurr Streams, wants a link.
Oh, Gurr Streams?
I think the problem is the creationists don't even know the definitions of anything. So they just go around in their own, making their own straw man kind of thing.
You called Gurr a friend?
I just wanted to get your attention.
How dare you? How dare you? I'm working on something of course, part of my system is not working again. I don't know why. Who knows? Who fucking knows? Anyway,
Jay has identified the central argument of creationism, that if you really want to understand it,
nuh-uh.
I mean, I've had when I was in college, I've had creationists tell me that before, like students who just like graduated from high school, and I said something about evolution, and nuh-uh.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh yeah, I recently been thinking about like people saying, or the creationists saying de-evolution and stuff. Like, would Planet of the Apes mute humans? Would that be part of like what their idea of the de-evolution?
Well, I mean, like talking hypothetically, I don't think so. Just because I mean, like the apes like gain in intelligence and stuff like that. So I mean, just talking theoretically, they'd probably have to gain a bunch of stuff in terms of developing their intelligence. They usually
I'm saying
mean
the humans.
but
The
we don't
humans would
change
be
in
like
that
the
movie.
evolution.
Right, but we don't change in those movies, right? Like we're the same old humans. It's just that we lose our spot as being like on top of the pyramid. We're no longer the apex predator, so to speak.
They lose speech ability, like in the early movies from like Charlton Heston's days, and even in the newer Planet of the Apes movies. Like, there was a virus, and somehow the way it affected humans is they couldn't speak anymore, or they got less intelligent. But then again, I don't know. But
saying it's still evolution. It's just that we're losing traits or something, or gaining to survive, or gaining traits that might seem like it's losing, but
they probably
have to go to other virus-related movies to get anything anywhere close to a good model of evolution.
Yeah, that's I guess just real quick tangent. That's something I see them do a lot. Well, they'll talk about like bacterial evolution, which tends to like tends to throw things out. There's Lenski has his paper, the Black Queen hypothesis, where he talks about horizontal gene transfer, and because it's like because they can pass it around through a community, like the incentive for any particular individual to have it decreases. Or the selective pressure for any particular individual to have it decreases, and so it just as it can encourage the emergence of new functions, it also encourages loss of function. And since they have less energetic capability than eukaryotes, their evolution favors more efficiency, less baggage. And so they always talk about that, but they never actually like discuss how it's different for eukaryotes, because we have a higher energetic capacity because of basically endosymbiosis in our mitochondria, and so the dynamics are different, and they never bring that up. They act like the way that it works for bacteria is universal across the tree of life.
The Problem of Biological Form by Linde-Medina. Otangelo just shared a paper with us. It explains everything that we've been wanting to know about this whole problem of evolution. I'm going to take a look. Let's see here.
Is this is Cameron's stream that you have, Capturing Christianity?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I thought maybe we might take a look at that. If I don't know, we could open the stream up too and go through some stuff, but now I'm distracted by let's see, embryonic development, which inspired the first theories of biological form, was eventually excluded from the conceptual framework of the modern synthesis as irrelevant. Oh, I didn't know that. Major question during the last decades has centered on understanding whether new advances in developmental biology are compatible with the standard view or whether they compel a new theory. So that's what that paper's about. It's some dude questioning the old, the old modern synthesis, the old decrepit, ancient, rusting modern synthesis. Is that what he's talking about? Are you familiar with this paper? Hang on a second. Let me show this.
I'm not.
Oh. I'm not.
Actually, I just picked up 2 books by Sean B. Carroll to get back into Evo Devo.
Oh.
Yeah, I got Remarkable Creatures and The Making of the Fittest.
And that's not the physicist Sean Carroll, right?
That's right. This is biologist Sean Carroll. I read his Endless Forms Most Beautiful years ago, and it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to getting into these.
Anyway, Otangelo, this paper doesn't say what you think it says.
I am so surprised. He's usually more careful with these kinds of
issues. Yeah, he usually is. Let's see here. Well, let's just take a look here. So what is it that you think this paper says, Otangelo? I'd be interested in knowing. Why in the hell is that popping up the way it's popping up? Wow, this is weird. I'm having weird results today because it's Friday and I don't give a fuck. Oh, how do we get rid of it? Have Otangelo's comment. Okay. So anyway, this is it. Let's see. He's talking about apparently embryonic development.
I'm sorry, did I get in your way there?
No, you didn't. And so embryonic development was not considered irrelevant in the modern synthesis. Is that from late 1940? Is that what they're talking about? So wait a minute. Okay, this isn't the paper. This is just.
Can I see? Can you scroll down and let me see that abstract? I want to see the abstract.
Okay, let me just get it back up there and position it.
Yes, the problem of biological form remains unsolved.
The last sentence of what?
All right, so, sorry, I'm going to read it. Major question during the last decades has centered on understanding whether new advances in developmental biology are compatible with the standard view, or whether they compel a new theory. Here, I argue that the answer to this question depends on which concept of morphogenesis is held. I can't read it now.
Hang on a second. Let me fucking okay. Right. Go ahead. Now you should be able to read it. And let's get rid of Otangelo's fucking comment.
Morphogenesis
can be. I'm sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Morphogenesis can be conceived as one, chemically driven, or two, a mechanically driven process. According to the first option, genetic regulatory networks drive morphogenesis. According to the second, morphogenesis results from an invariant tendency of embryonic tissues to restore changes in mechanical stress. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. What did I do? What did I do? What have I done?
Here, I'll share my screen.
Just shut up, Scott. There you go. You're back.
My screen? Okay.
While chemically driven morphogenesis allows an extension of the standard view, mechanically driven morphogenesis would deeply transform it. Which of these hypotheses has wider explanatory power is ... Any lower than that.
You want me to go lower?
Yes, please. Is unknown. At present, the problem of biological form remains unsolved.
What are they talking about?
So chemically driven morphogenesis.
Hold on a second. Let's get the paper up. Okay, the paper. Here's the paper. Okay. Oh my God, that paper's small. It's got a small font. And I can't do much about it, I don't think. No, can't do anything about it. Well, they're going to disappear. Okay, one of the main goals of biology during its emergence as a natural science was to explain morphogenesis. So what have we got? Preformatationism. So what is this paper about even?
So, I mean, like it really, I obviously haven't read this paper, but just going by the abstract, it looks like he's saying that if it comes down to it being chemically driven, then that would change our conception. But I don't understand how that would help Otangelo's case at all. And I also don't understand how that would be like some kind of fundamental challenge to evolutionary theory.
Would you like to know my thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure.
My thought is he did a search. He found something that said something remains unresolved and said, aha, that's a defeater to evolution.
Yeah,
because the paper's tone and the paper's discussion isn't about that. It's just about we may need a different hypothesis or new theory to test on that particular subject.
Yeah, because the way that the abstract is formed, he's giving you two different potential hypotheses, one of which would require revision to evolutionary theory, or at least that's what he says. And he says that we don't know which one it is yet. And so, I mean, modifications don't amount to rejection. So even on the basis of what he's concluding in that abstract, it doesn't look like it supports Otangelo's argument. But I'll read the paper just to see.
Okay, so what are they talking about? I don't understand a chemically driven process. What are they talking about?
might be the same thing like I was gonna actually, no, I'm probably mistaken when I was about to compare it to like stereochemical affinity and stuff like that. Well, maybe something like that. But if there are other factors that are dependent on chemistry that drive embryonic development, that seems to be what it's saying. But again, I mean, I should really shut up because I haven't read the paper.
Hey, quick question. When was this paper written?
2020 or 2020.
Okay, so it's relatively new. That's surprising.
So, okay, wait a minute. Now, okay, morphogenesis is dependent upon genes and when they turn on and when they turn off, almost exclusively, right? We've got a few small molecules like retinoic acid that have an effect, but what in the fuck are they talking about? So this is going to drive me nuts till I figured it out.
Take a look at Nesslig's note here.
Let's see. Quickly skim the article. It's ironic that Otangelo says it criticized the concept of a genetic blueprint program. Yeah. Well, that we know. You know, we know it's not a genetic blueprint. But basically it is gene centric. And if it steps outside of genes, that it's talking about the regulation of genes, which would be the epigenetic modification of what gets expressed and what gets inhibited. And we knew that. I mean, there's no big fucking surprise or problem. Morphogenesis points to evolution more than anything else that you're ever going to read about.
I also like how he says that how the paper emphasizes how development is emergent. And if that's the case, we're talking about bottom-up development, which is exactly the opposite of what Otangelo needs. He's arguing for top-down design. Evolution is bottom-up development. But again, I mean, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because I have to read this article before I can really say anything. But this is just what it looks like based on what we're going through right now.
You see right here this illustration that's showing, okay, we've got hunchback and bicoid on one side of the embryo, which would be the anterior. It goes all the way to the posterior. And what you have is differing expression across that entire cell. And this is in Drosophila. So you have a differing expression, and you see these graphs that show you how much of the protein is expressed, right? So basically, based on combinations of this differing expression, it's going to choose an anterior or the front of the organism and the back of the organism, anterior dorsal and or ventral dorsal. No, anterior posterior. I'm sorry, anterior posterior. And then in between here, you're going to end up with these odd little combinations that are going to start to kick off this segmentation pattern that creates the segments of the insect. But anyway, these are genes. So bicoid, crouple, giant, hunchback, all of those are genes. And they're expressed at different, basically different concentrations. Now, the reason that it is not a blueprint is because it's dealing with an analog function here of what the concentration of the gene is in the original zygote, the first egg that starts out the whole thing, right? And that's analog. That's not. There's no little gene that says make a leg here or turn this into a sex organ or whatever. That's not what happens. It happens with these different morphogenetic fields, which are basically different concentrations of fucking proteins, which are made from genes. So it's genetic, but it's not a blueprint. It's not like a God-designed blueprint. It's
and I know. Happens. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, what it is random stochastic happenstance genetics, that you have different combinations of different genes that are expressed, and that's what creates the body plan in an organism. And this is no goddamn mystery. We know more about development than we know about anything else in biology. So,
and in terms of the whole blueprint thing, Nesslig posted an article a while back, and it was from 2016, pointing out how the blueprint analogy is misleading and shouldn't be looked at that way. So, so once again, it looks like this isn't really, it doesn't look like it's like some groundbreaking new thing that would entail like, a rejection of evolutionary biology or anything like that. But
yeah, he's talking about a deeper theory, and I think he's leaning toward the extended synthesis. He's talking about morphogenesis as mechanically driven, self-organizing process. And it is self-organizing, but, you know, it's still genetically based. And I don't think there's any question in any biologist's mind that makes this some sort of war. I think this is one of those guys. Sal Cordova had a paper a while ago about I forget what the hell it was, but he claimed it was a critique of evolution, and what it was a critique of evolutionists or evolutionary biologists fighting with each other over all these little goddamn details. That's what the critique was about. He was saying you're not doing anybody any good by coming up with the extended synthesis versus the modern, you know, and all that stuff. So that's basically
that tends to be the standard mode of operation, where they find like disagreement within the community and they try to use that to tear the whole thing apart. And I've seen increasingly now people who criticize creationism doing the same thing, where they point out all of the disagreements going on amongst the creationists and stuff like that, showing like, you know, that they all disagree with each other too. I guess that kind of strategy is long overdue, since they've been doing it to evolutionary biology for so long. And last thing is Topdawg has an interesting paper in the private chat too.
Oh. So the only thing that Otangelo found in this paper was that one line in the abstract and the name of the paper, right? That's it. And I don't think he understands anything else about this paper. But I will read the damn thing and give you an opinion on Monday.
Why do we have a guy waving a leaf, taking up the whole picture?
I like him. That's that Bartucci. Is that his name? Bartucci? I don't know what the hell.
You're not talking about Cameron Bartucci, are you?
Yes, I am.
No, that's not him.
That's not him. Oh, that's the other guy. Okay, that's the other guy he had on his channel. So, let me take a look at this paper. Topdawg. I think I already had this one somewhere. This is for Farias. I think I just downloaded that recently. Origin and evolution of RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. I got to work on the description, guys. I don't know what to do. Why are we doing this?
No.
Good question.
What's this video going to be about?
What?
Somebody had a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Why?
We're doing this so we can help at least one person understand a little better about the natural world.
You are such a positive dude. You still believe. Anyway.
What's this video?
This video? Like, why Christianity makes life more meaningful than atheism. I thought we'd switch over to that. Anyway, we'll get back into this little topic that Otangelo got us into, and I will make you look like a fool, Otangelo, as usual. We'll read the papers, and I'll try to link all these papers in wherever I link papers.
3 cheers for Nesslig listing a Sci-Hub link.
You know, Jay Patrick is talking about evolution now and science, and I was going to start talking about religion. How the fuck does that work? Usually he disappears when I start talking about science. Anyway, should we play this?
Unfortunately, I guess we're going to. I got to listen to Cameron talk. It's usually a painful process.
We didn't talk that much. This other guy does most of the talking.
That's good.
Brian Bellard, Dr. Brian Bellard.
The leaf from a eucalyptus tree. And I hold this leaf and I think, here is something that right now in this moment, God is saying yes to. This leaf is a kind of link between my mind and his. And this becomes a powerful way of engaging with nature that's opened up to you. If on the other side of the natural order is a benevolent mind with its will bent towards you through nature.
So he thinks his own mind is God.
Yeah, he thinks he's special. And it's like, okay, so, but I know what he's getting out of this, right? Like when I go out and I look at my oak trees, I'll look at a leaf and I see all the molecular biology, and I see and I can reach back and imagine all of evolution and everything all the way back, to the beginning of life on Earth. And all of that stuff is, I'm in awe of that stuff, because molecular biology has given me a much richer way of looking at plants and animals and life in general, particularly plants, for some reason. And he gets that by thinking that God somehow connected with him personally. Is that kind of what he's saying?
Something like it. Whatever the feeling he gets is his God connecting to him. The subconscious thing.
Are you willing to be in this discussion, Dessel, or do you not care about this kind of shit?
No, it's frustrating to me, because the way that I look at it, like when you hear many Christians, particularly those of a more evangelical bent, talk about the natural world, it's fallen, it's stupid, can't do anything on its own. The real realm where all the value is the supernatural realm, and this is just like this fallen world that eventually needs to get redeemed, and the world of the flesh is not something that we should be investing in at all. And so I think that it's actually kind of the other way around, where like this world on its own has very little value and meaning, and it's all about connecting to this other world, which in my opinion is a total fairy tale. And so it ends up leading you away from looking at the world as like this wonderful thing that you should engage in. Instead, you have to abstain from the world and look forward to the hereafter, and that's where all your meaning draws from.
Okay, and like, what is like? Okay, imagine cupcakes with lots of frosting on them. Okay, that has deep meaning to me, being somebody who's on a diet where I don't have carbohydrates anymore. Anyway, so I mean that has deep meaning to me, but I understand that meaning is only within me, and perhaps within my community, between me and the baker. But we're all humans, right? And we develop our own meaning internally inside of us. And as we interface with the universe, okay, we basically have meaning within us, but we don't have to project it onto the whole fucking universe. And we don't have to make it so the whole universe is a God looking down on us. I mean, with this little tiny point, this little gabagoo on a dust particle in the middle of the infinite cosmos, right? And looking down and saying, I made this cupcake just for you. It's like, no, the baker made it. Do you see what I mean? They want to bring the entire universe, all of meaning, like all the meaning that the cosmos may have, they want it to center on them. They want a personal guarantee from their fucking sky genie that it was all made for them. And it's all about them. And it's all about them looking at the leaf. Well, the leaf doesn't give a fuck about you, dude.
So, like, the way that I look at it is, there are similarities, but there are differences. Like, the way that natural selection works, it encourages like species to prioritize their own lines of development, and so you have like competition, both intra and intergroup competition, and so like it makes sense that we would view things and value things from our own particular standpoint. That's something that we've evolved to do, but there's a difference from looking at it that way, where you're interpreting meaning from your own, from your own individual standpoint, versus projecting that onto the universe. And that's what they do. And I don't buy into that. I don't think the universe is here for us. I don't think that the universe has us in mind at all. But looking at what's that?
Would it be?
Yeah. So, I mean, I just don't think that that's true, but I also don't think it's a problem to look at meaning through the lens of our own human perspective. That's that's something that I think we've evolved to do, and I think that there's a legitimate basis that you could argue for from that fact about why it's totally appropriate for us to value it that way. But yeah. I'm gonna put that argument aside because it has to do with like morality and meaning and stuff, and maybe I'll get into it if this guy in the video like does a deep dive or something. But
the thing is that from my point of view, morality, meaning, cupcakes, eucalyptus leaves, oak leaves, those are cheesecake. Those are really powerful, super meaningful things to me, as meaningful as I can get, right? But I don't think it has to extend outside of me or outside of humanity. I don't require that the entire cosmos was created so that it could make a cupcake for me, right? That inverted thinking that, you know, I mean, humans have deep meaning, right? We're emotional creatures, and we're driven by an innate morality, and we spin that into, you know, our concepts and whatever our mind can do, and all that's fucking wonderful. And we are really special little creatures, I think, because we're creatures that can look out on the universe and create James Webb telescopes and do all kinds of stuff, and that's wonderful. But in the grand scheme of things, Otangelo, your I am is going to rot into a bunch of fucking dust not long from now, and that's going to be the end of you. You know, there's no more you. There's no more meaning for you. You're gone. That's it. It's over.
Just like a computer, while it's on, it's what is the part that you are.
What's that song by Johnny Cash and the Four Horsemen about being like a tiny drop of rain and I will remain, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of the best the best description of what happens after we die that I've heard, and it's very musical.
We will always have been
too.
We will always have been a part of the universe, and I think that's really cool. But so every leaf that falls on the ground and rots is also just as valid a part of the universe as you. So fucking get over yourself, Christians. Anyway, but this guy, he doesn't seem to shit on nature. You know, he talks about having awe and reverence for it, but it's all through his God, and he doesn't understand why atheists have the same. But these two together, they weren't bad to listen to. They're not boxes of rocks like we're used to dealing with.
Well, maybe this guy is, but I've seen way too much of Cameron to give him a compliment like that. And real quick, I just saw Nesslig's comment about Turing machines, and he also clarified that he used the word emergent, but the actual paper uses self-organization. But I would consider those pretty much the same thing. It's referring to bottom-up processes. So granted, Nesslig wanted to clarify the actual term that the paper uses, but the use of both terms is totally appropriate, I think. So nothing wrong with what Nesslig had to say, as far as I can see.
Yeah, it is self-organizing, which is wonderful, and it. And of course, it gets sort of its marching orders from that strand of DNA, but it's not the whole story. There's something far greater going on there than just a strand of nucleotides. Anyway.
By the way, the name of that song was "The Four Horsemen."
Oh,
sang by Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson.
Oh my God!
One more guy. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't. But I'd love to play it.
Here
but
we go. We're gonna risk it.
Copyright strike. Try.
I keep seeing this stupid free energy problem. I don't understand why people keep mentioning that.
Is it Otangelo?
Yeah, like come on, man. Like non-equilibrium thermodynamics, my dude. Like there are several different abiogenesis models that use that of energy gradients that create free energy. You could do that through a UVC model. You could do that through alkaline hydrothermal vents. Free energy problems, not some grand friggin' mystery. Like literally there are several abiogenesis theories that use that as their core foundation because these processes give you the free energy that you need, even on the exact levels at which life operates.
Here's the problem. Otangelo won't read the literature.
Right.
He's lucky. We're lucky if we can get him to read the abstract. in full, but he won't read the literature, so he doesn't know about Deemer or Lane or I can't remember the other guy's name. I do apologize, but
yeah, he's asking right now about the proton gradient. Read some friggin' alkaline hydrothermal vent literature. Like, you will find literally, like, if not thousands of friggin' papers talking about the proton motive force that's generated between the CO2 ocean and the alkaline fluid and the mineral interface there between the two fluids. You generate a proton motive force. And like, there's so many friggin' articles that discuss that if you're seriously into abiogenesis and like, you know, you're studying it and you're making these large pronouncements about what these theories are capable of doing, you should be aware of that.
Yeah, and there's either Michael Russell or William Martin on the two videos that are posted in the description. They talk about, you know, the water basically goes down through the crust or whatever, or into the mantle, and then it percolates up, and as it does, it basically, there's this hydrogen that transfers a ton of fucking energy through these vents, right? And that comes up out of the floor, and you have a natural energy and electrical gradient.
Yep.
So
hey gentlemen, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out. I'm starting to get a migraine. I just had to take some medicine, and I want to kind of lay still in a dark environment, dudes.
Feel better, Scott.
Oh, I will. It's just a matter of letting it go through its process. So y'all, I will continue to listen. Y'all just have a great evening, okay?
You too.
All right, bye.
See ya.
Anyway, I put both those papers in the Otangelo should watch those, or both videos with Michael Russell and
this is gonna annoy. See, this is gonna start pissing me off. Look at this, sci-fi at its finest. Like, they've literally experimentally demonstrated it multiple times. I mean, go look it up, my dude. Stop saying stupid things that you know nothing about.
We should just ignore this fuck.
I guess so. All right, let's proceed.
Okay.
Tennyson, in one of his great poems, In Memoriam, he speaks of the God who the hands of God reach through nature, molding men. They reach through nature, molding men. I think that's the theist, that's the Christian's basic experience of the natural order, I think, if you talk to many Christians. And so I think that's the nutshell, and I think this has three upshots, and I'll list them briefly and get into them more. One is devotional. If you're a Christian, my friends, here is a kind of meaning that you can tap into in your own Christian life. The second is...
If you're a molecular biologist, you get the same thing, even better.
Rhetorical. The nuns, the religiously unaffiliated, not like Whoopi Goldberg, but like the religiously unaffiliated.
I don't care about that. I'm going to move ahead here to the next timestamp I had.
Bestowing, it's like, not, it sounds nice, but really what's going on is that it's just, you know, this is all make-believe.
Yes.
It just... Yeah. It's something that humans sort of conjured up, and they just act this way for whatever reason, and it's not necessarily something that exists in reality.
We should just end it right there, right? Because he kind of summed it up.
And he was agreeing.
Kevin, it's nice to see you again from the other week. Yes, is this just opinion? Well, it's not any more subjective than any other kind of value. So I am assuming the reality of value in general. And I can give you reasons for thinking that value is real and not merely subjective. I'm actually not sure what subjective means, but I take it to mean it's something like mind dependent, like a subjective truth is one that we somehow make true by thinking it or believing it or something like this. It's like the rules of chess.
And needs a little unpacking. So yeah, subjective truth would be something that we create within ourselves, within our mind, right?
Okay, all right, but see, I don't even think that it's subjective. Like, if you've evolved to have that innate morality, right? So like, there's an innate way that you are that you're intended to operate based on evolutionary pressures, right. And so those are objective facts about yourself. So now you have to make up your mind. Do you want to act in that way, or do you want to act in the opposite way? And so now comes in, so we have objective facts as part of our theory, but now we have to tie it into prescription to why we should act that way. And so the argument for why we should act that way is that if you act in accord with the way that you're set up to function, naturally you're going to feel good about that because you're already wired to feel good when you're acting that way. But when you act in contradiction to that, then you naturally feel miserable. You're automatically, because of the kind of creature that you are, you're not going to feel good if you're acting contrary to your own nature. And so just upon the pure basis of your own self-interest and the experiences that you'll inevitably have, you have a prescription to follow in accord with those objective facts about your own nature. That's the bridge. And so that's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Are there like different types of subjectiveness, like your own personal feelings about the thing, and then actually seeing it, the real thing too? It could be.
But the thing is,
description.
Okay, there's the things that happen naturally in, like, evolution, right, are all based in how our brain wires up and how our hormonal system works. And so there's like this bottom up sort of, drive to behave a certain way. Okay. And then as you grow up in a culture, in a family, and you start to put together, basically your behavior becomes complex reflections of what the culture is around you. So there's that. So you're getting kind of a just sub-rational point of view, basically, from your culture. And below that,
there's how you're trained.
Below that, you've got all of this hormonal stuff that says, I don't like violence, I don't like killing, I don't like pain, I don't, all that stuff, and it all feeds up, right? And then on top of that, and this is where philosophers are weenies, where they argue about morality incessantly, right, is that we start to develop all of these constructs, these conceptual, linguistic constructs above that, right? Because that's a part of what our brain does. We find patterns and constructs, and it's all based in this. So this is flowing up, basically, and entering into those concepts. And that's where and it's up here where we'll end up with, the trolley problem, like little one-off or abortion, one-off things that we're all going to disagree on because they fire off different, cultural and emotional things at us, right? Like through that cultural lens in our upbringing, we are going to have different concepts about what a human being is, what a fetus is, what a human being is, where life starts, all that shit. And so we're going to have these divisions. But for the most part, okay, there's a wide common morality. And that's what you're talking about, this subjective, evolved, socialized morality, right? So this common morality. And on top of that, we're going to have all these little divisions. Some people are going to hate smokers. Some people are going to think Christians stink, or whatever. There's all these little one-off things up here. And what philosophers try to do is they try to take this whole thing here and try to make it into some kind of unified fucking whole. And it's not. We're biological critters, right? We start with a biology. And this biology comes up through our development. It's development, which for humans turns into a linguistic, cultural interchange between other human beings, right? And then at the top, we've got this rationality. And what fucking weenie philosophers try to do is take this and fucking extend it all the way down and try to come up with some rational way to encompass both the cultural milieu and your history and this emotional evolutionary objective. Do you follow that? Does that make sense, Trace?
Wait.
I'm agreeing with you on the objectiveness of our moral basis, right?
So we need to learn how to think, not just what to think.
But there's nothing in your biology or your evolution that's going to tell you what to do when you run into the trolley problem. Do you kill six? Yeah.
I think that's actually kind of a pseudo problem, but we got Andrew in the side chat. He's asking to get your attention. He wants you to take away Otangelo's wrench until he unblocks some people. I guess maybe he's got like certain moderators blocked or something like that. I don't know.
He's blocked people. You block people.
I don't know. Andrew just asked me to draw attention to what he was asking you to do. So I don't know.
Okay,
that's all on you guys.
Otangelo, if you're blocking any of my guests here, or or you're spamming, you don't get a wrench.
I got to do this just because it's all over the side chat. But I mean, like all this stuff that he's got going on here, and this is going to be the last thing I have to say on it, because I'm not going to spend all stream on Otangelo. But he's got all this stuff. He's got the proton motive force, and he says that that's all just speculation. It's not. They've experimentally shown it in several different studies. So like take a look at CO2 reduction driven by a pH gradient by Hudson, published in 2020. And like he's talking about decomposition. We've already talked about that like ad nauseum, like all the different things that stabilize the organic molecules, not just with respect to the environment, but also with respect to their relationships with each other, how peptides and RNA have mutually stabilizing relationships, and how compartmentalization by amphiphilic vesicles also helps stabilize them. And then the confinement of the water to bound the water, that also reduces the levels of hydrolysis. And like there's just like literally every single thing that he's brought up so far are things that we've already talked about on this show. And so like I just think he has absolutely no excuse to be still regurgitating the same old thing over and over again. Like if you're gonna keep using these arguments, at least try to show that all of the literature that addresses these points, that it still somehow fails. So like address the point about the mutual stabilizations between the organic molecules, address the point about bound water, address the point about how, you know, the environment has stabilizing factors, address the point about the rates of synthesis over decomposition. Like actually engage with the literature rather than just picking out one single sentence in an article that identifies a research problem that they're going to focus on in that article and pretending as if you've said something interesting, because the rest of that article addresses exactly that point. And that's why nobody looks at you as an honest interlocutor. Right. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, he says, I show it. Your cat's bored. You know, you show how complex it is, and it can't happen. You know, and that reminds me. And the only thing I'm going to say about Sal Cordova before I'm ready to talk to Sal Cordova next week or the week after is that Sal Cordova talks about topoisomerase, and then he talks about zinc fingers, right? And he shows one fucking protein, and he claims to be a protein, you know, biologist, right? And like his specialty is proteins. There are 699 other zinc fingers out there. And when you start to look at all of them, then you start to learn things about the proteins, right? They never look any deeper than just this one little thing that they toss out there, like a little chunk of meat, right? like just a little scrap of meat they toss out there. It's like, oh, that disproves it. And it's like, for God's sake, go get educated. But the problem is,
fallacy is it?
I don't know the what is it? The problem is they won't get educated because they don't believe in it enough to have the energy to go out and look and see how this stuff happened. The abiogenesis videos that I've looked at in the last 2 days cover so much stuff. And then you hear these jokers say no progress has been made for 70 years. It's like, you're out of your fucking mind. Anyway, should we, Otangelo, you got to go away now. Explain how the macromolecules were selected amongst an almost infinite pool of structure. It's called natural selection, asshole.
There are selective processes, but another thing that he's missing is that a bunch of the other synthesized molecules, like for example, when you're talking about like 2', 3' nucleotides rather than 3', 5', those 2', 3', Szostak showed that those actually work pretty well too. And so like they have functional capability. Just because you don't have the exact ones that life operates with now doesn't mean that they're non-functional and that they can't help along the course of developing life. Because as people like Szostak have shown, they are actually helpful. They do actually function toward what you need. So it's not like their existence is some kind of objection.
You'll still find remnants of those in some of the biochemistry that's happening right now. You find you'll find fossil remnants of those one-off strange little molecules, even even D-amino acids you'll find in bacteria and some plants. There are remnants out there. It's just that there was a slight advantage, very, very slight advantage to the 3', 5', and that's what ended up winning the race because natural selection. That's how it happened. So when he said, explain how macromolecules, natural selection, Otangelo, go away now. That's it. End of discussion. You heard. I answered your question. Anyway. Oh my God. What? Oh, fuck. What are we going to do? I might have to throw them out. Paul Davies, why Darwinian evolution does not explain the origin of life. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Understand the problem.
I wasn't aware that anybody was appealing to Darwinian evolution to explain the origin of life.
Right.
There are people who appeal to selection-like processes on the level of abiogenesis, but that's distinguished from Darwinian evolution operating on populations. Yeah, so I don't know. Davies is somebody that I have to read his abio stuff more, but I've read his stuff on like physics and other topics in the past, and I'm just really not impressed by that dude. He's just not somebody that really impresses me as a very, very good critical thinker. I know that he's really celebrated and he's a famous physicist and all that, but he's just not somebody that I'm a big fan of.
He's a physicist?
He's a physicist. I've heard him talking about like fine tuning and all sorts of other stuff in the past. His principal thing that I've read from him all has to do with physics stuff. So I was under the presumption he's a physicist.
He's a physicist. We don't care about him. Period. He's out of the. He has nothing to say about abiogenesis.
Well, what about George Gamow? He came up with stereochemical theory. And what about Erwin Schrödinger, physicist who wrote the seminal book, What is Life?
Schrödinger was full of shit.
Oh boy, here we go.
Asshole. Anyway.
So some people think that just because we don't know everything right now, that their version is correct somehow.
Yeah.
Before the end of the stream, if you'd humor me, you want to share that Bill Martin video? Did you get to watch that?
I watched a bit of it. I'm not sure if I watched it all. I can't remember. I think I watched it all, but I may have
you were talking not too long ago about how a lot of the creationists are using like computer animation and CGI and stuff to depict the flood, and that you wish that science researchers would use that more. And Bill Martin has like a 5-minute clip in his lecture video. It's not realistic.
Yeah, you sent me that.
Yep. Yeah, it's not really realistic because it's literally 5 minutes long. So like as the camera goes up, you literally see this like automatic increase of complexity that's actually taking like thousands of years. And so like the video has it all just like poofing into existence, but it still at least gives you like the general gist of the line of development.
Let's roll it.
Okay.
Ooh, can't hear him.
There's still 2 mistakes. The guys just sent it to me last night. Okay, on the early Earth, the moon had already formed. That is, the Earth had already become molten, and it already solidified with all the water raining out on the oceans. And the oceans were twice as deep as they were today, because today there's about an ocean's volume worth of water in magma and the crust, and that in the beginning was on the surface. The surface was a nasty place because of the late heavy bombardment. On the bottom of the ocean, it was nicer. Look at all the water. All right, so here we have.
I just want to point out that water that's basically not on the surface is pretty much all combined. It's not like a liquid ocean lying around under there, like some creationists think. So,
it's inside the material or minerals. So.
Yeah, a lot of it is basically bonded to minerals. So
we got
dragging vents, black smokers sitting right next to the spreading zones where the water comes in contact with magma. They're much too hot for the origin of life. Lost city type vents, off-ridge vents, 70 to 90 degrees. These are much more interesting for reasons that we will see in just a minute. All right, if we take a look at the geochemical reaction of serpentinization that's going on here, that is shown here. okay, this is the thing that the guys need to fix, and that's going to cost me another 2,000 euros. They have to put the vents over here, not where they are. These guys do it on purpose. I know. They know I've got money, and so they're playing with me. Over here, we've got the low temperature hydrothermal vent. Here we have the black smokers, where the circulation, the water coming circulating through the crust and coming up over here is much too hot because it's directly in contact with magma. That's why these vents are much cooler, 70 to 90 degrees when the water comes up, and this sequence needs to be shortened by about 5 seconds because I don't have anything to say here. Yes. Serpentinization. All right. So the water comes in, reacts with iron-2, inexhaustible reserves of iron-2 in the Earth's crust, generating white balls. This is molecular hydrogen. Sulfur also eluting out of the system, and the oxygen and water being retained in the rocks as magnetite. And then we go to the hydrogen making awaruite, native metals, and this is our cartoon. Hydrogen activation. This is actually not entirely wrong. It gets split into hydrides. This is how these compounds actually react on these surfaces. CO2, right? Physisorption and chemisorption, then they start to undergo reactions. And this is why we're seeing what we're seeing in our reactions in large amounts, because these surfaces are catalytically active. Now, it's heterogeneous catalysis. We don't know exactly what the sites are, but they're doing a lot. All right, and so this is a lot of synthesis going on, and that at specific sites in the heterogeneous catalysis, these golden arrows mean energy release. We have exergonic reactions. Metabolism is unfolding from the reaction of H2 and CO2, just like it does in methanogens and acetogens, giving rise to increasingly stable compounds, organic soup, if you will, but continuously synthesized on-site in compartments made of catalytic walls that have a continuous source of energy as long as there's H2 and CO2 interfacing. The products can then, metabolism can accumulate on the walls, begin to polymerize, giving us more complex organic compounds of any nature, and those can have catalytic ability, giving us a transition into more complex catalysis, autocatalytic networks, and feedback. And that gets us to things that we can't explain, but we can draw a picture of it. And this comes into, lots of precursors being formed, polymerization into RNA and RNA world. Nobody knows whether this actually happened in early evolution, but everybody assumes it does, so we put it in the movie. And we've got here like RNA recombining and doing all sorts of interesting things, tRNA. And look what happens here. It's the origin of the genetic code. Well, that was fast, but I told you it's a 5-minute movie. Nobody can explain where the origin of the genetic code comes from. Neither can we, but we know that it occurred in Luca, and so we've got it there in compartments that have a continuous source of carbon and energy and nitrogen.
Well, you see those compartments, basically? You see how many different RNAs and peptides are inside those compartments?
Yep.
Those are the origin of proteins. There was no single protein that everything had to evolve from by natural selection. That's why it's such a ridiculous idea. I mean, there were thousands of those things, different configurations, right?
Nitrogen. Yes, and the only other thing is that one of the comments that he makes here about how nobody knows how the genetic code arose. And while yes, nobody knows, I didn't like how he phrased that, because it suggests it's just this total mystery that we've also made no progress on.
Being humble.
Yeah, and that's where I really start getting my that's where this weenie philosopher starts having a problem with the way that scientists phrase things sometimes. Because I wish, and this is with all due respect to all the scientists out there that use this modest language, I just wish that there would be some more cojones in backing up your own research, because there has been progress that's been made on that. And when Bill Martin here is pretty familiar with Lane, they've been collaborators, and so he should know, for example, Lane's work on the origin of heredity and stuff like that. And then you have Kunin with his talking in his papers of the several different classical theories of stereochemical coevolution, Crick's frozen accident. So it's not like this is a total mystery or something like that nobody's made progress on. There's definitely a lot more work to do on the genetic code, and I myself am just now really starting to do a deep dive into all of these different theories to try to figure out what I want to support. But already, like here at the vents, you have the promotion of the growth of the membranes, and with their growth, they eventually become unstable and divide, and so you have a content reshuffling of the nucleotide sequence, which explores out that sequence space for functional capabilities such as replication. So I mean, it's things like that that are markers of progress. And so I just wish the scientists would be. I understand that you want to be modest. I understand that you want to be cautious in your research. But at the same time, it would be really nice if people would be more confident in the contributions that they're making to the field. Like Sutherland the other day, talking about how basically 20 years worth of research and synthesizing all of these different organic molecules, and the way that he described it is that contributes zero to the question of the origins of life. Now that's absolutely that's just plain ridiculous. Like if you go from a stage where you have no idea how any of these things are synthesized, and then over time you develop an understanding of what's at least plausible in the Hadean era, and then you start using those different conditions to synthesize the different organics, and now you get to the point where virtually every single organic molecule has been synthesized, from amino acids into peptides to lipid vesicles to nucleobases, nucleotides, and even now waiting on Herrera's paper for RNA and stuff like that. Like that's progress, and that's not zero in terms of a contribution. And so when they say stuff like that, it openly it allows for these kinds of creationist quote minds where they can pretend as if no progress is being made and all the scientists are saying that they have no idea, when in fact all the friggin' research is actually making progress. So I just wish that scientists would have just a bit more of a backbone when it comes to the contributions that they're making with their research.
Two comments on that. First of all, they say things like that in order to like wrap the class on the head and say we got more to do. We got a lot to do, right? And the second thing is that most of these guys, creationists, don't mean a damn thing to them. ID proponents and creationists, not even on their radar. They're not even aware that they're being cherry picked.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, because creationists amount to like the weirdest little minority. They're flat earthers in different with a different coat on. That's all they are. So nobody pays attention to these guys, and that's why they feel free to make these comments. But yes, I wish they would fucking stop, and think about the cherry picking that's going on.
And you can use cautious language without making it sound as if you've made zero progress. Like you can use words like, and based on this evidence, we have some good reason to believe that, and other cautious, language like that, where you're at least showing that, we're making progress and that we have good reasons for putting forward, different respective theories. But without making it sound as if it's some total friggin' mystery that everybody's totally clueless about. But anyway, that's just my personal gripe.
And now that we have this picture on the screen, I want to point out that, okay, we had these little, basically mineral cavities where a lot of this stuff started to happen. And then we started forming the lipid bilayer, because that is a very favored fatty acids accumulating carbon atoms and growing longer and longer is a very favored reaction in all of this, right? And when these things encapsulate, they encapsulate multiple RNAs and peptides. So there is no common ancestor needed. There's thousands of them that are being encapsulated, and that's where proteins come from.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, like I said, when it comes to like the origins of things like protein folding and stuff like that, it's still something I got to work on. So I can't really speak to any of that. But the idea, the synthesis of many different peptides, and even like the notion of having some very simple proteins and stuff like that, based on what I've read in the literature, that's entirely plausible to me. And and in terms of peptides, I mean, we've already shown polymerization, like the synthesis of amino acid and their polymerization in experiments.
Yeah. Well, protein folding is pretty easy, just like RNA folding. Very small RNAs fold up, and they can fold up in such a way as to have and enzymatic, basically they're ribozymes. They will have a chemical effect on something, and they also associate with minerals, and so do small proteins. And it doesn't take a whole lot to create an alpha helix. I think each turn is what, God, I forgot, 3.6 amino acids or something like that. And if you have two of them, you've got kind of a little helix there, and proteins fold pretty easily. So, and they do it naturally, basically, with the right pH and with some water. And so anyway, there just are no problems. You got to think in terms of small molecules and what happened with small molecules and what they can do. And things like the zinc finger came from a real small molecule, basically. A small section that got replicated. About 28 amino acids, sort of thing. Anyway, okay, I'm going to play the rest of this. How about that?
Origin of DNA, and then the late transition to free living cells and its evolution among prokaryotes until the origin of eukaryotes via symbiosis 2 billion years later. So let's go.
That's nice. That's good. I linked that video in our description, and it will be there. And I will try to link all the things that Otangelo has just come up with, all the little naysayers and stuff. And Kunin, here's another one, okay? Kunin wrote an entire book about abiogenesis. And then at the end of the book, he starts talking about probabilities, and he does this back-of-the-envelope calculation, which he should not have done, because it was very naive, right? He doesn't know the probabilities. And then he starts talking about the multiverse. And I'll be fucked. These creationists think that every evolutionary biologist relies on the multiverse.
No go.
Because of one little paragraph in Kunin's book on page 363. That's it. That's the whole fucking thing. And it's like, oh my God, you guys. Stop.
Yeah, you could actually compare that to somebody like Mike Russell, who thinks that you'll find life on virtually any Earth-like planet that's like a wet, rocky world. He looks at life as emergent from planetary processes like serpentinization and these energy dissipating gradients and stuff like that. So he expects to find life, not intelligent life, but life on planets like that. So he doesn't expect life to be incredibly rare just in one universe, let alone in a multiverse. But yeah.
By the way, I created a books subdirectory in our little abiodecil folder, and I haven't looked today to see all the papers that you've uploaded, so I'm not sure how many you've uploaded.
Yeah, just books so far. I'll get to articles soon.
I see how you are. Anyway, so I put one of your books in there, but the other books I did not. So what you want to do is move them into the books directory, and I put a few up there. So.
All right, deal.
Them up there, and we should check that. But I check it. Yeah, I usually check it every 5 minutes, but I decided to give you 24 hours. And
I told you 2 weeks.
What?
Told you 2 weeks. Yeah, I got all this. I got all this stuff that I'm already doing. But yes, I will very soon. I'll start uploading some articles. I'll do some for you tonight. Okay.
Oh, that would be exciting.
Okay.
How am I gonna know which ones you uploaded? Shit.
Yeah, maybe I'll send you an email after I'm done, and I'll list which ones.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. All those papers that you've read and all those videos that you've taken down so that I can't see them, I'm hoping that you have all those papers and that you'll put them all up there eventually. But.
Some of them. I'm not gonna hunt down every single last one of them, but I'll hunt down some of them.
You make it speed sad. Okay, I was gonna get into this video, but I think we're gonna shoot her in the head instead.
More from my good friend Cameron here.
Oh, I don't know. There's a hell of a lot, and it's a long discussion, and there's just a lot here where this guy talks about meaning and what I don't know. Maybe I'll play the last thing, and we'll just top it out with that.
So the first objection is the one that I mentioned earlier that I want to get into, which is what about all the evil in the world, right? If God is like,
that's not the one.
This is all related into like the whole question of like, if something is just coincidence, this really weird thing happens coincidentally.
Yes.
Is it like better, or is it just as good if it were created and designed and everything? And I think the answer to, because I side with Tyler McNabb on this, I think that it actually, Swamp Man is actually a better objection to internalism than to proper functionalism. I think that design is a much better, is it makes something way more valuable.
Why?
Depending on the designer, but assuming that the designer is someone like God, then this would be a source of great.
Okay, so what he does is he talks about what if your house was created just randomly, chaotically, right? Just like sheer coincidence, all the boards came together in a tornado and created your house. And then he says, but contrast that with your dad made the house because he loves you. And then he says the universe is like that, only his dad is God, which tells me that he has daddy issues, right? Dad didn't love him very much, so he needed to go to God to love him. But if it's coincidence, it's not meaningful. Why? Coincidence is wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you win the lottery, like, they wonder, but if somebody already knows the numbers beforehand.
That's a good one. So, like,
which one is more meaningful?
Yeah, but like, okay, I won the lottery, but I realized it was just sheer chance, so I'm going to give all the money away. No. Fucking spend that money. Go and buy a Bugatti. Damn it. Anyway, he goes on a little bit about that, but I think that probably sums it up. He thinks it's more meaningful to have a loving God create the universe for you. Otherwise, you can't appreciate. Like us atheists, we suffer from not knowing that a loving God made all of this just for us. It's like, not only does he have daddy issues, but he's kind of a psychopath in that he basically, it's all about me, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that if first there's the whole randomness thing, which is a straw man, whether you're talking about evolution or you're talking about abiogenesis, but randomness or determinism, regardless, if there's a particular process that is able to produce complexity, then I think that that's something that we would look at and feel awe toward, because it's capable of producing such an incredible end product. And that's still something that is value being projected onto that thing from us. And he's saying that I see when he had his little picture up there saying that this value is subjective. Again, I don't think it's subjective. I think it's based on objective facts about us, and we have an actual prescription based on our own self-interest to follow that. But and also with this whole dad thing, if we were to say something like that, if you had an atheist who was talking about how he found his house to be meaningful because his father created it for him, the believer or the apologist would turn around and say, well, why is your dad meaningful? Why are you just opposing that? That it doesn't really answer our question, does it? Because then you have to get into establishing, well, I mean, where does the value of God come from? And I really don't think that you're going to be able to come up with any kind of notion of value that makes sense apart from somehow apart from yourself. They have these ideas about intrinsic value, something that can have value without a valuer. I should be really clear. There are two different kinds of intrinsic value. There's the Aristotelian sense, in which we're talking about just something that is desired, on its own. So we value it as an end rather than a means. So there's that kind of intrinsic value, which I don't have a problem with. I think that's real. But then there's another kind of intrinsic value that's supported by philosophers like Immanuel Kant. And this is this kind of value where even if there was not a single sentient creature in the entire friggin' world, and this hypothetical thing exists in a totally empty vacuum, it's still valuable. And I don't think that that's coherent in the slightest. So
you don't, yeah.
People take
Yeah.
value when it's directed towards them and it's good.
Yeah, value has to have a metric. So, I mean, you have to create some sort of a metric. The thing is, though, they're taking the idea of a father, which is what Christianity is all about. It's about paternity, and they're taking the idea of a father. Now, a father is very meaningful to all of us, right, in one way or another, depending on your dad. But our family and our relationships are very meaningful to us, and they want to project that onto the natural universe. And how they can do that with a straight face and not realize how dumb that is, I never understood it. How you can take that father figure sort of bull. I mean, they always call him he, him, with a capital H and all this stuff. I mean, it's so goddamn obvious what they're doing. And my father really cares about me and he loves me and that's why I'm important. It's like, yeah, you got daddy issues, okay? It's like, get over it. The other thing, random. Okay, random is a bullshit idea, and chance is a bullshit idea. So when you call something random, what you mean is that within the scope of what you're looking at, there are a lot of other variables, okay, that are outside of that are affecting it, and many variables. But random only, and so you'll call it random, but that's, you really don't mean like, oh, just total chance. Because all of those variables have their own mechanisms and their own structure and their own relationships, and they're impinging on the thing that you're measuring. So when you look at probability, you'll like, if you're looking at causation, for instance, you know, what caused the billiard ball to hit another billiard ball? Well, if you widen the range, okay, everything going back to the beginning of the expansion of the universe had an effect on that, was causal to that, right? And you're going to take all those things and call them random. But that's not, we don't mean, like, random is not an actual, it doesn't have actual existence at all.
Yeah, so, you know, there's people who want to argue for like a kind of genuine randomness in quantum mechanics. I'm not going to touch that right now.
I think that's there, yeah.
The only, and from my perspective, just where I come from, literally the only place in which I'm going to appeal to a chance process would be in terms of universe creation, like with the Big Bang, or like, you know, the idea, from my perspective, the natural world is infinite. So it doesn't begin, it doesn't end. And so with respect to that, like, you know, why are we in a low entropy state at the Big Bang? And for me, I would appeal to random processes in order to explain that. You have an infinite amount of time for a low probability event to happen, because thermodynamics is statistical. So if you run the tape out long enough, you eventually get improbable events such as systems coming out of thermodynamic equilibrium. And that's the only time in which I'm going to appeal to some kind of randomness. But when it comes to the origin of life, when it comes to evolution, it's not merely a matter of chance. It's deterministic processes like non-equilibrium thermodynamics, like selection, that are driving these processes. And so, you know, if you want to criticize my perspective on the grounds of chance, you could try to focus on how I look at the origin of universes. But when you're talking on those billions upon billions of years of a time scale, you know, appealing to a chance event becomes, you know, it's no longer unbelievable in my mind, because you're literally talking about an infinite amount of time.
Yeah. I wonder, okay, like when you think about the singularity of the Big Bang, right? So there was an expansion, and then after the expansion, galaxies stars started to cluster together by gravity. If they had been completely homogeneous, if they'd been all equally spaced, what would have happened? What would it have looked like? So there had to be some difference in how they were arranged, right? So that some things ended up being a cluster and other things were not. Do you know anything?
A few details, like the antimatter thing.
No,
there was
the
equal amounts and stuff, but there's still our matter became the dominant.
I'm talking about where things are in space. Like, okay, where things would, like when matter started to coalesce, however that happened, where the particles ended up in space. If you had a cluster of particles, basically they would start to attract each other by gravity and start to, bend space and fall into each other. And that's how stars were formed. Well, if everything had been
static forces.
If everything had been complete, like if you took a grid, right, like some ruled paper, or grid ruled paper, and at every corner you put a dot, right, they would all be equally spaced. But that wasn't the way the universe was. So there was some kind of information developed very early on that allowed that coalescence of stars and gas clouds to basically come together as stars. There had to be something. If they all pulled on each other equally in every direction, I don't think anything would have happened.
And they were giant stars too, probably.
Yeah. So you ever thought about that, Dessel? So it's like, okay, if the singularity was some sort of weird ass black hole on the other side of some other geometry that had information going into it, and then you would have that spatial information coming out. But then on the other hand, it could have been random quantum probability that managed to make everything at a slightly different place, so that you had clusters, because we need clusters in order to have the universe that we have. It couldn't. So, there's a tension between homogeneous or pudding and complete order, right? There's a tension or a complete disorder.
What about like in terms of gravity, where the attraction becomes different depending on distance? So like even if the strength of the attraction is partially dependent on distance, so if that's the case, like what do you think about the idea that even if they were homogeneous in terms of their in terms of their distribution, wouldn't some still be closer to others?
Well, if they were all equidistant, the only place that
they would be equidistant. You're right about that, actually. Yeah. So yeah, you would have to have some kind of heterogeneity in there.
But then the only place that they could have been different is at the edge of the expanding universe, right? So at the edge, you would have had an imbalance, but then everything would have coalesced into one big bang, like one big black hole. It just would have sunk back into a black hole. So there had to be some kind of... What's that?
My idea was like centrifugal force or something, like a spinning record. It would be like a black hole if it was spinning so fast that it would just shatter into many chunks.
Yeah, but why would it shatter
It ripped itself apart. I mean, that's my idea. Yeah,
but there's some structure to that already. So anyway, that's something I've always wondered about. And if I got into physics, that's the thing that I would study. Is that, that basic information.
Yeah, I think that's legit.
Because, like,
I watched videos about it too.
If we had all just electrons or particles, oh shit, I just lost my train of thought. Time to shoot her in the head. Anyway. Oh, yeah. What I was going to point out is it isn't just the matter, okay? It's where things are in spatial relationship to each other. So space, so the metric of two particles being a certain distance from each other, okay, that's like a property of both particles. So that relationship is a property. And that is the basis of all of this miraculous shit around us that's happening, right? And that's the really stunning thing I find about the cosmos and about being alive and about all of this happening, is that we have this all of these different relationships that map out to how far things are apart from each other. When I tried to program something I call minimal metaphysical models, and I did it in Ruby, and I ended up with points in space, right? And I sprinkled them around, and they had some properties. They had, I think I gave them velocity. I gave them the ability to bump into each other and shit like that. But a minimal metaphysical model, and this is real metaphysics, where you start thinking about why two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, and what the relationship that we call space actually is. And at one point, I thought of creating a model where there was no space. There was only this relationship between particles, and that defined space. That defined how far apart they were. Basically, some property of those two particles together. And that was where my head exploded, and I quit programming that particular thing.
Sounds
but anyway.
I mean, like, I might be a little off in terms of like conceptualizing what you're saying correctly, but it sounds kind of like the distinction between Newtonian absolute space and relativistic space-time. How like you're only defining this notion of like a quote unquote space as in terms of like a relationship between the particles, as opposed to like having this absolute arena. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Okay.
Yeah, but it's a different kind of mathematics when you lose the idea of a Cartesian coordinate system and you start talking about just the matter and the relationship between it. And that's where my head blew up, basically, because I don't have like, if you were like a genius at topology and differential geometry, you could probably make some progress in these minimal metaphysical models and trying to figure out how shit works the way it does. And I think from those minimal metaphysical models, that's where logic comes from. Basically, that's the logical structure of the cosmos. And then, I don't know. And it's Friday. And my head is tired. My head is so tired right now.
All right.
I need shrimp. Huh? Yeah, let's shoot her in the head.
All right, deal.
Well, okay, boys and girls, God, thank you, everybody, for 549 chats. You guys are, that's what happens when fucking Otangelo gets dropped into the pool.
Yeah, I'm impressed. He went through the whole stream and he didn't say one single correct thing. So that's talent.
Yeah, that's unusual. It's hard to break his record because I'm pretty sure he does that all the time. Oh, I know what I was going to name the chat. I was going to name this stream, and I was going to talk about this video with Cameron Bartusi. And I was going to name it Christianity is a matter of taste. Like, some people find it more tasteful to think that the universe was created for them by a daddy. And other people find it more tasteful to believe that this is just, that we're just tiny little things, tiny little parts of the universe, right? Well, it's a matter of taste. And I think even the abortion issue comes down to a matter of taste. So these Christians, they find what they call random, like they think somehow random is like this evil, like contingency or coincidence. They see it as evil because that's just their taste. Whereas my taste is I fucking love the random shit blowing around.
Doesn't random just mean we don't know?
Yeah, that's kind of the point I was making before, that random is like this collection of variables that we don't want to deal with right now in our model. Anyway, we got to shoot her in the head. Now. I have babbled, and I have won. I think I have won in my own mind. We're all famous. Okay, boys and girls. Love all you out there. Next week, I'm going to be gone on Wednesday through Saturday, so no weather reports. It's Operation Saving Snack. So Snack is my new kitten, and I have to go get him and save him from my niece's evil dog, who decided that Snack is a snack.
I'll prepare the noodles and the teriyaki sauce for the kitty chow mein.
Oh, all right. Yeah, and then when I get Snack home, it's like Saving Private Ryan. I think they killed like 20 people to save Private Ryan. When I get Snack home, my cats are going to eat him. Anyway, goodbye, guys.